We've all got something to hide. Well, you know what I mean. We've got something like a wall or a fence, a shed or some bins, and that's where we need a vigorous climber. And the early flowering clematis or group 1 clematis are brilliant for this. It's all those wonderful things that flower in May, like montanas and alpinas and macropetala, which are a little bit earlier, and things like the armandii as well. To get the best from them though, we need to prune. This is best done after flowering has finished. When you start your pruning, look for dead wood. This is the first thing to cut out. There. Now, before we get carried away and cut too much off, check for any gaps, and we can find new stems to fill those and tie them in place. There are times when things grow too well, and this one's starting to grow over the door and the doorbell, and you might find sometimes it gets up into the gutters. So these are obvious candidates just to be removed. So from here we can carry on cutting off long growth. If there's a real cluster of stems and you don't need them to extend an area, just cut those off with a pair of shears. By the end of it, you want it to look neat, tidy and flat to the wall. If you've got an older or more congested plant, you might want to thin out some of those areas too. However, if it's really old and gnarled, then it's time to cut it back, and that's a spring job. You will lose the flowers this year, but instead you'll get really good regrowth. Cut all the stems off at about 15 centimetres from the ground, water and mulch, and it will all regrow. And then we start the process of tying in and training once again. Even new early flowering clematis might need a prune. This one's only got about 3 stems. We want more, we want bigger displays. So with this, when I got it home and I planted it, I'd be cutting it back just above these buds here, and then it would shoot and give me more stems. Some of them though are very vigorous, and this one, it's already got about 5 stems and there's lots on the top. So I'd probably say I won't prune that, and I'd just plant it and train it in. And by the way, if you don't know which clematis from the early flowering group to buy, check out the RHS Find a Plant tool on the website, because it'll guide you through. With this little bit of pruning, we need never worry that our early flowering clematis will get out of control, and they'll flower year after year.